Welcome back for some more modern action. I'm, of course, NanMan, bringing you guys all of our coverage here today. And we've got Hardened Scales versus a Moonshadow variant. We've got a couple of Moonshadow decks that have been running around the shop, so we'll talk a little bit about what the idea is behind it. This one in particular utilizes that Moonshadow to kind of grow, increase in power as things go into the graveyard. And so because we're throwing things in the graveyard, why not add a little bit of reanimation package into the mix there? So nice little twist on what players are doing with Moonshadow. This one is a mono black variation, though. There are a couple different versions running around. Of course, Demir seems to be the most popular, or at least the most powerful. Of course, there are some like Death Shadow, Moonshadow hybrid list that exists. That is very cool. A little bit of newness coming out. On the other side, Hardened Scales is a little bit of an old school deck that has existed for a while that hasn't really been as powerful or prominent, especially since, there are really powerful cards like Wrath of Skies and things like that pop up here. But we see the Moonshadow hitting the battlefield. We see a Zabaz hitting the battlefield as well here. And big shout out to the players because they have their life total on the app. So I don't have to track it this game. We'll see if they track it correctly or not while we go through the commentary of it. But always nice to be able to, see that little bit of element for the players to do their life totals. Of course, everybody else usually has them on life pads or boogie boards or whatever they might be able to utilize to help track their life total. But a second Moonshadow hitting here. And the fetch will help grow it. If we get a Surveil land, we could pitch something else in there and help it grow. But looks like we already have something in mind here to be able to drop down. But you can kind of get an idea of what the deck is trying to do. We've seen variations of Moonshadow in, of course, Modern and Legacy now. But Patchwork Automaton is pretty scary to deal with. It can grow pretty big. And the ward like that it's got with it can be a bit annoying if you get it out early like this. Let's see what we're doing. Thoughtseize here. Let's take a look. Ooh, okay. 2 lands, a Magus of the Moon, and we've got a Tezzeret here. So our Moonshadow player is a little bit surprised by the Magus, but it's because of the lining up here of being able to just constantly make constructs. But getting rid of the Tezzeret makes a lot of sense because we're basically on this mono black list. We're not that worried about having mountains. So that goes to 2. There's the Shockin. 16 all. There's the Magus. We'll lock in on the Urzatog. It's been a while since we've been able to, talk about this idea of being able to constantly make constructs. I had this idea in my Urzathopter combo deck that I played for a while there, which actually won a modern event, which is really cool to see. Made me go, ooh, maybe I want to play it. Maybe I'll play it online because I don't want to spend the money on the Mox Opals to push it to the power level that it needs to maybe win, but it needs that extra speed there. But it's very cool to see that the Thopter combo is still doing well. But we see Swamp Cycling Troll of Khazad-dûm coming out here. So permanent going in. We'll go get a Swamp. Very nice. Yeah, already 3 3s, so that's 6 damage. Dropping our Hardened Scales player to 10 life is pretty powerful and pretty fast here. I don't see, we're not seeing any baubles or anything like that at the moment to help increase the power, but that doesn't mean that they don't have the possibility of showing up soon. But in the meantime, we've got, we could take the 6 here, go to 10, and then next turn becomes like a must block moment almost. And the other thing is their menace. So yeah, it looks like we're going to take the 6. We make a construct next turn. Inkmoth Nexus, aka Mountain. Yeah. Make a construct. Block with Zabaz. Well, that's the problem, right? Even if we make a construct here, we need to have another 1-drop or something to help grow because we have to double block. So you see this debate here of a way to try to get us out of this situation, but No 1-drops to drop down. No Springleaf Drums. No extra Zabaz. The extra Zabaz wouldn't really make a difference here, but... Okay, another Swamp. Oh, that's a good way. So now Citrus Supplier will mill 3 cards, and it is not 1 counter remove per permanent, because this is all part of 1 effect. It's saying, here's 3 things. Even if all 3 are permanent, you're still removing 1 counter. Now we are going to mill a couple of creatures in there. Looks like also a Bitter Triumph. So there we see Moonshadow's decrease. Decrease, increase, however you want to think about it. But all right, here's this little cool addition here. Timeline Color. It's got this ability that you can cast Warp from your graveyard, but it's got haste. So 2/2 coming across. There we see the construct being made. But yeah, 4 4s, 2 4/4s for that's 8 power total. And then of course the 10, or the 2 extra damage off the Time Color. So basically forcing into a must block situation. There's only 3 power, so we see this sort of debate. I guess it's also that moment of going play for your outs, right? Throwing a Magus in the way might be worth it too. And go Magus block with the Patchwork and keep the construct alive. Or use the construct. No, we can't. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I feel like if we have the Magus die and we're able to draw like an Arcbound, we're tutoring off the Urza Saga. Is there a world where we could win with Inkmoth Nexus and just win? Maybe. Ancient Stirrings might help us here. Oh, there's still that Menace creature we got to deal with. I like the Welding Jar, though. That might help. Player land. 1 card left in hand. Can still make a construct. See the debate here. Right, we talk about this all the time on the channel. Is that you're playing to win, right? You're playing for your outs. You're playing to not lose, right? That's a very different idea. Because if you're playing to not lose, you're gonna just sort of like go, okay, I have to like throw things in the way and just sort of try to stay alive. But you're like, no, these are the outs that I need to try to line up for. My deck can win this way. I need to set myself up for success. This is the best possible way to be able to do that. So we're gonna see how that works out here. Is Hardened Scale players, a couple of artifacts. We'll have another 3/3 construct. We could throw Zabaz and Magus in the way. Uh-oh. Bloodghast, less than 10 life. This will have haste. We're going to warp in our Timeline Color from the graveyard. And then 2, 4, 6, 7. That's just 7 across without even counting the Moonshadow. Ooh, just go wide. Okay, that worked out pretty well. That's one way to be able to close out the game with a little Moonshadow. Is I like those little bit of go wide strategies that it's got available to it, not just go all in on one creature here. But we got to look through, see a little bit of sideboard and options. What do we grab? Oh, look at this quick grab. Found 4 cards right away to be able to grab for both players here. So it's gonna be interesting to see what that looks like going into game number 2. And what to take out, too, because you don't want to over-sideboard and go, oh, these might be good because I'm playing against this deck.
Gameplay to let you know about our new affiliate with Nerdgear. Nerdgear.gg/NanMan will take you directly to the website, and as you can see, they've got a bunch of awesome gaming accessories from playmats, life counters with the life tracks, playmat holders, and more. So make sure you do some browsing on the site, find some goodies, and then use the code NGNanMan for 5% off your entire order. But let's get back to our gameplay.
All right, let's get back into it. Of course, this is a best of 3 recorded up at our LGS, and we are going to be continuing to have our modern coverage for you all to be able to enjoy on the channel, but we're also going to start sprinkling in a couple of other gameplay stuff, right? We got some legacy content coming up soon, got a couple of other events and stuff. We were hoping to do some pre-modern stuff, but I just scheduling just never worked out, sadly, to be able to get any recording up of that. So, but there will be other opportunities for more gameplay stuff. So if there's specific gameplay that you want to see more of besides modern, or in addition to modern, I guess we should say, let me know. More MTGO content's coming up soon. We've got our we do a blue-white Felia list on MTGO to try to deal with the race car and legacy, so that'll be coming out on the 11th of June, in case you guys want to check that out. So still doing a couple of the sprinkling of Saturday content there, but let's get into this match as a Vexing Bauble Zabaz coming out. Vexing Bauble's okay, you know, depending on the Hardened Scales list, right? It shuts off the, you know, if they are on Mox Opals and stuff like that, but for the most part, you know, we saw the welding jars and things, but it's different. Hardened Scales is different than like the Affinity list. Affinity list is all about these 0 drops, right? Chalice of the Voids and things, not, you know, engineered explosives, and just like how many 0 drop stuff can we add to the list? But all right, Patchwork Automaton coming out again. No Moonshadow at the moment. Now Patchwork is also annoying because it's like, okay, how do we get rid of this? You know, the Zabaz is there, not as scary as maybe something that, like, the double modular can be annoying or can be frustrating to have to sort of like navigate and go, okay, I need to set myself up. But wow, look at that clump of Hardened Scales. Yeah, we'll grab one of those. There's also a Tezzeret and a Arcbound Ravager in the mix there. All right, there is our Eldrazi spawn. Do we got a land drop? Yeah, go for punchies here. We'll send in a little bit across, double checking the patchwork here, how we're gonna fight this. Bitter Triumph, discard. Kill the Zabaz here. This will, of course, move the modular. That one counter. Still take 2. Not bad way to start things off. Getting another land here. 3 lands and a Fatal Push in hand. But this does give us a chance. Landfall, of course, will get our Bloodghast back from the graveyard here. I don't mind the idea of just pushing the Patchwork, but we go for the Surveil land to... I mean, I think the Surveil land makes a lot of sense. We're full of lands right now. We know our opponent has a Hardened Scales. We know that they've got 3 other cards, so we know there's some scary stuff coming. So maybe wait and utilize the Fatal Push for something worse. Which there are worse things than a Patchwork, even though Patchwork can start to, you know, snowball. So we see whatever it is we're happy with, it's staying on top, so... it's a good sign. And with the Vexing Bauble, we can always pop it and draw a card too. All right, Hardened Scales. Oh, that's scary. Ozolith is going to cause a problem. Now there is... oh, we don't have the mana. I was like, there's that window with the triggers that you could try to interact with it, but now you see this is where things get super snowball. We talked about this. The amount of counters that have gone on to Patchwork has increased quite a bit, and oh, can't block with that, sadly. But if we find a way to answer that, that of course will all go into the Ozolith. The Arcbound could eat it and try to interact, but there's a push. We'll at least go and try to get rid of the Arcbound, which makes a lot of sense. So we see there's the moving of those 2 counters over here, and then we'll move additional counters on over onto the Patchwork. 3 to be exact there. So an 8/8 in one turn, jumped up to an 8/8, all with the power of Hardened Scales. Well, we popped the Vexing Bauble, but not really finding much to do with it. Rotting Regisaur, though, is not bad. A 7/6. A little bit of a discard outlet. I like this card in Cube a lot, too, if you're running like a reanimation strategy. So, also, 7/6 is pretty scary to deal with. Oh, no. Arcbound Ravager number 2.
You can see why that was really funny for me. Yeah.
I like the Hardened Scales players. So you can see why that's funny. You killed this and then I immediately top deck it? I don't know. Yeah, that's a big patchwork. All right, forcing the blocks here. I like this. Moving that, of course, counters off the Ozolith onto Arcbound. We've talked about this before of key pieces that you need to worry about when you're fighting against certain decks. When it comes to the Hardened Scale list, the Ozolith is really scary. Agatha's Soul Cauldron is really scary. But I feel like the number one card that you need to be worried about is Arcbound Ravager. It just does so much. It's such a utility card. It really allows that manipulation. It allows the OTK elements of just going, and now I'm going to one-shot you, right? I'm going to move all these counters onto this Ink Moth and get you. I'm going to sit here and move it onto this Walking Ballista, and now I'm going to machine gun you down. Or like there's all these little nuances that really rely on the Arcbound Ravager to be able to do that. But the Rotting Regisaur jumps in the way. But yeah, this is not a position you want to be in as a Moonshadow player going, I have no Moonshadows. I have no scary things in the graveyard to reanimate. Nothing. Surveil. Can it save us? Probably. What can we draw here to get us out of this? Even a Fatal Push is not enough. I mean, Fatal Push gets rid of the patchwork. That's nice. But it just doesn't, like, the Arcbound Ravager. Oh, it is a Fatal Push. So the Arcbound Ravager would just get all the counters, right? But I try. It's nope, 3 lands. All right, let's scoop it up. go to game number 3 here. Yeah, that was tough, right? Where we didn't really have any threats on the board. And I think that it was definitely an interesting moment of going, hey, let's keep this hand because of the Vexing Bauble. And you see we're going to do a little bit of re-sideboarding there of trying to pull those out, saying, well, those didn't really actually do anything. Maybe just finding another bit of tools to help me will be more impactful here. Fatal Push. Going to mold a 6, though. All right. Starting it off, what are we looking for here? Do we have a Moonshadow to drop down on turn 1, or are we going for a Surveil land? Okay. Swamp, maybe. We got a 1-drop then. That makes things a little bit, interesting in how you kind of have to navigate this next stage here. We know it's Fatal Push, but that's not why we would fetch right now. Ooh, looks like Inquisition of Kozilek here is going to be the debate. Which is, makes perfect sense to do an Inquisition early. If you have the option between Inquisitions and Thoughtseize, doing an Inquisition on turn 1 is a really good idea. And we've got a Zabaz Springleaf Drum, Arcbound Ravager, and an Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Ugh. You do not... Yeah, basically saying these are the 2 scariest things. I got to decide between these. Let's go with the Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Which makes sense. If you chose the Arcbound, Agatha's will just turn everything else into an Arcbound, but... Ooh, Surgical. Oh, that makes it interesting, though. Interesting. Part of it is the mono black deck has a hard time interacting with artifacts. So you could make the argument of going and stripping away the Arcbound Ravagers instead of the Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Agatha's Soul Cauldron does become a problem with Walking Ballista still. Right, we know that, especially with the Ink Moth Nexus that's already in the hand. So I can see the argument for both here. But what would you do if you're in this situation and you know that whatever you discard gives you the option to be able to strip away? Is it better to strip away the Agatha's Soul Cauldron or the Arcbound Ravager? Let me know. Leave a comment. Talk me through it. What are y'all thinking in that situation? Because it's easy for us, eyes in the skies to sit here and look through that and go, okay, why would you do this line over this line? There are the benefits of going, I have a hard time interacting and dealing with the Agha's Soul Cauldron, and I know that there's going to be better ways for me to interact with the creatures, like the Fatal Push that's in hand, stuff like that. So you kind of can make those choices and decisions based off of the tools that you have at your disposal. But looks like Drum Pass. I like that. Drum instead of a Zabaz because we could play the Zabaz next turn and tap it for mana to then, play something else. Okay. No 2-drops. No Moonshadows at the moment. Okay. Passing. I mean, you play both this turn, huh? Could just go Arcbound as well as the Zabaz. Basic forest, just in case. We still have the Magus lines. So, what do we need a stomping around here for? Nothing. No need for it. I mean, Galvanic Discharge and stuff like that are options that some of the lists run on the sideboard, but we're not using those right now. All right, there's the push.
They just sent us one. I'll pass.
I don't know. I still like the idea of getting rid of the Arcbound Ravager over the Zabaz. Yes, we'll see some manipulation and moving of counters, but the Arcbound's is scary. All right, Rotting Regisaur. We've got a Malevolent Rumble here. Looking for some tools to help us out. All right. Walking Ballista, Patchwork, Urza Saga. All right, leaving those in there. Play the Urza Saga. Make a spawn. Ooh. Okay, okay, here's this interesting moment here. We stack the spawn, tap that for 1. Could we not say I'm casting Walking Ballista, X is 1. Then I will tap this spawn and stack it and generate 2 mana, and that counts as it, and we still have the Urza Saga untapped? Does that work? I know casting spells is weird, right? Because I think there's some weird nuances in when it comes to affinity in that regard of it's getting a reduced cost, and then I'm gonna stack these artifacts or treasures or something like that. I think you could do it the same way with the spawn though. Somebody that is a judge or a much more experienced player with these sort of lines, let me know if that works the way I think it does, or if I'm completely wrong, because that's I know there are certain things with casting that do become weird, and I don't know if that's one of them or not. Oh, we're getting a flood of creatures though. No Moonshadow. Citrus Supplier though, going to get us some tools. We're looking basically. We've got a Bloodghast on the battlefield. There's another one in the graveyard here, so we're looking for some way to help us out. All right, how do we get through this? Rotting Regisaur is scary. Doing 7 damage, a 7/6. I mean, it doesn't have evasion, so we could block it all day. We pass here with a lot of mana. Urza Saga is on 2. Moonshadow. Okay. Do we have a way to interact with it? It is a 6/6. Ooh, okay. Send the team. Block this. Shoot this. I like that. We're going to block here so it absorbs the hit. I'm going to shoot this before anything else dies, so we're not going to... You have no way to interact with the board, no sacrifice effects, so let's do it. And we've got a 1, 2, 3, 3. About to be a 4, 4. Could be a 5, 5. Make another construct here. I don't mind that line of just sort of going into that kind of, let's just build a bunch of robots and turn them sideways. All right, we're going that route, making a construct. Construct number 2 coming out here. So they, of course, power and toughness are equal number of artifacts we control. Right now there are 4 on the battlefield. We're going to tutor up off of Urza Saga's last ability to go find a 0/1 cost. And there, oh, welding char's nice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 5/5s. We have an Arcbound Ravager that can manipulate counters a little bit here. But I like this idea of getting that to help us protect it. We know there's Fatal Push. You know, there's a lot of removal available, so Bitter Triumph is another one. Ancient Stirring is going to get used to find another land, but it is an Ink Moth, which you can activate, use it to pay the mana into itself to turn it into a creature, which would then make the constructs bigger. Right now they're 5/5s. They become a 6/6. They would be 8/8s next turn.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. We basically have to survive this next turn and be okay. I mean, we could also go all in on an Ink Moth, right? You see the sort of math and... Oh, every time, I'm telling you, I love seeing it from the players that are doing that calculations and working through those moments and trying to work through those lines in real time of sitting there and calculating out, okay, I've got, if you do this and I do that and we sit here and get to this counting, all right, cool, I'll get this many counters on it. But then if you have this, that it's all, you know, like you have to work through it all, and I love seeing that. All right. Nothing to discard off the Rotting Regisaur because we are hellbent. What did we top deck, though? Also, a big fan of the Moonshadow Players playmat that they've got. Actually, I'm a big fan of both. Sheldred's awesome. The, of course, 3 OG starters is awesome. All right, send the team. Block the little guys. Block here. Ooh. Looks like we're going to sacrifice the Ravager here. Would like to move this modular counter here. These will die. What do we reveal? A land, not a big deal. Another Bloodghast is nice. And Persist. That will die. Did we get a land? Not that it really helps us. We'll need one for next turn. If there is a next turn. Because we lost our Ravager. So, let's see. 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, that's Xaxes, though. Malevolent Rumble. Let's go digging. Wow. A little bit of clump for some of our lands. But I don't mind the idea of getting Tezzeret there. We could cast Tezzeret. Of course, we... Like, we have the spawn. Again, we've got that idea of sack the spawn and tap it for mana. Does that work? I don't know. I'm waiting for someone to tell me. I think it works that way. All right, I'd like to cast this spell, and now I'll pay the cost for this spell. There's a Ravager in there. Okay, we grabbed the Ravager. There's our spawn. Yeah, I think you can. Right? I'd like to cast this spell. I tap this spawn for 1, and then I sacrifice it. I think that works that way. I don't know. I'm definitely caught up on it. That's where my brain is locked in for this match. But we do see Arcbound will come up, and you see the mathing again. All right, we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 artifacts on the battlefield. The turning the Ink Moth into a creature, they become 6/6. So that's 12 damage, drops the Reanimator player to 2. But we're at 9. There are at least 2 Bloodghast in the graveyard. All right, bring the team. 5. Yes. So one of them is a 5/5. The other one's a 6/6 because it has a Arcbound counter on it. Let's activate the Ink Moth, tapping itself to activate it. Oh. Oh, Bitter Triumph, losing 3 life. Let's target this one. We do have the Welding Jar to save it if we wanted to. I feel like that's the play, right? Keep it alive as long as possible. Yes, it'll be a little bit weaker. Yes, it'll be regenerating out of combat, but it's... Yeah, so we pop the Welding Jar. This gets removed from combat. We still will take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Still take 6. Plus the +1, 6 damage. Not bad. Drop to 5. All right. Is there a land? Do we get some Bloodghast coming back here? Oh, no. A Moonshadow. Well, that's a blocker. Guess we just pass here and have a blocker against the robots. Double block and force a awkward position. Yeah, a land would have been great. Because then we could have pushed damage with the Bloodghast and just like send them across and keep the Rotting Regisaur. All right, but now we're at 1, 2, 3 more artifacts. 4, 5, 6, 7. There'll be 7 7s. I don't know. Uh-oh. So you see this adjustment in the mana here. Based off of the card that's in hand. Loading Zone is going to just blow this game wide open here with the ability to double up the counters and having that Arcbound Ravager. There's the Loading Zone. If one or more counters would be put on a creature, space grab, or planet, twice that many are put on. Let's bring the beats. Go to combat. Activate all the Ink Moths. Just confirming with the Loading Zone how it works. Yeah, it's like block the biggest things here. All right, activate. You're at 5, so this will be 2 counters, 4 counters, 6 counters. There we go. Wow. What we talked about earlier is like, should you get rid of the Arcbound Ravager or should you get rid of the Agatha's Soul Cauldron? I don't know. It's like seeing those moments, it makes me want to get rid of the Arcbound over it, but that could very easily have turned into, oh no, all of my creatures are walking ballistas here, and I'm going to machine gun down. You're going to try to win through your, Bloodghast, and they're a 2/1, so I always shoot them there. But I don't know. Very cool to see. I love to be able to see, of course, other decks featured on the channel, not just the #1 top tier stuff, but also the Modern is so diverse. We get to see cool decks like this Hardened Scale list, like the Moonshadow list. But if you like our content, make sure you're following along, subscribe, all that good stuff. But that's going to do it for us. Thanks for tuning in and watching, y'all, and I'll see you all next game.